Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Judge Janine Pirro, Jessica Tarlov, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. The Biden administration can't stop lying to the American people about the border crisis. Just days after Kamala claimed the border's secure, we're getting more evidence that makes her look like a total fool. Brand new video showing illegal immigrants in camouflage scaling a partial wall on the border in Arizona. And there have already been more than 2 million border encounters so far this year, a record high. At least there's one Democrat willing to bust Kamala on her border lie.
Vice President Harris said this weekend the southern border is, quote, secure.
It's wrong. She's dead wrong on that. And I have said this. If we don't secure it, I voted every time for the wall. But we need the wall and a lot more.
But the lying doesn't end there. Listen to this outrageous claim from the White House.
We had to fix something that was broken, especially by the last administration, the Trump administration, which largely just tried to build a wall, an ineffective wall, along the border and couldn't even finish that in 4 years. We're certainly doing a lot more to secure the border and could be doing even more if Republicans would stop their obstruction.
By the way, where are all those liberal fact checkers on all of that? Fox News did some digging, and it turns out nearly every major fact checker has completely ignored Karine Jean-Pierre since taking over for Jen Psaki. Dana, are they going to have to walk back? We know they like to walk back. Are they going to have to walk back the border is secure line? Because that can't continue for that much longer.
Well, maybe they will after the midterm election when they lose and you look at the exit polls and the border is an issue. But even just take just one issue of the border when they falsely accused the mounted border police of whipping migrants. It wasn't true. They made those guys sit on their rear ends for over 11 months, fake investigation. They finally released an investigation and says, oh, yeah, actually, that didn't happen. Did the White House walk that back? No. Did they apologize to them? Absolutely not. So I don't think that's going to change. I think that what you're seeing from Kamala Harris and the White House press secretary, and probably from Biden if he ever does an interview, is that this is a strategic and craven and desperate move just to basically say, not us, it's Trump. They want to run against Trump. They'll try to make that all about Trump. But one of the problems is there are no reporters on the border. Bill Melugin, amongst other Fox reporters, but Bill Melugin is certainly there, and he is very passionate and has all the pictures, all the videos and everything. He sends all this out. I'll ask him on Newsroom. Anybody else down there? No. The only time they go is if there's something, for example, of Governor Abbott sending migrants elsewhere, then they'll go to the border and cover it. So it's no one. This is crazy. Bill Melugin put out a tweet the other day that showed these guys in camouflage going over the wall. And all of these responses were saying that we at Fox set it up, that it was fake. So now you have border deniers, and you do not actually have anybody talking about things like the fentanyl crisis, for example. That would be one thing where, if I were Republicans, I would drive that home. 300 Americans die a day, and they don't talk about it. They have the nerve to say that this is Trump's fault. It's unbelievable to me.
No way Fox could set that up. I have trouble ingesting tape. Greg, do you think these guys could have saved money on the camo? Because you don't need camouflage. You can just waltz right through.
Yeah, Dana's right. There's nobody watching and nobody caring. I think, what's her name? What's
Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre exists to make Kamala look smart. Kamala exists to make Mayorkas look smart. And I'm scared of saying that because I think he might label me a domestic terrorist for being insensitive to his feelings. Maybe he would feel differently if the people, the migrants, were posting Biden memes. Then he would be really, really. Why isn't he considered a domestic threat by not doing his job? By his own definition, right? I mean, he's saying that, like, if you post something online, a personal grievance. But what if you're just not doing your job and allowing terrorists to cross over? That seems to me like a threat. But I got to be careful. But what you hit the nail on the head. You get the sense that we do this. We've done this story for years. You get the sense that no one's listening but our audience. Yeah. And I think it's because the media only cares about the optics if it can be tethered to Republicans or to law enforcement. Hence, going after the Border Patrol agent, they could pin that on law enforcement, even though so they didn't have to say it was Biden's fault. So the only way to fix this is to elect a Republican. but not for the right reasons. Because, you know, not because the Republicans will fix it, but because the media will then do their job when a Republican is in charge and there are migrant drownings and there are 300 fentanyl deaths a day. Then if they can pin that on a Republican, then it's a story. Because remember what happened to the kids in cages, how miraculously that went away when Trump went away and how it didn't matter under Obama. So, and lastly, we have to stress this because we always get attacked for being anti-immigrant. We're very pro-immigrant. We're against illegal immigration because both of those together are very American. One, immigration self-selects for risk takers, and America is nothing but risk takers, and that's important. But what's not American is line cutting, right? Yep. So that's the fault of our bureaucrats, but we just don't like people cutting in line. We're pro-immigrant, we're against line cutting. That's America.
Judge, I have an idea. Tell me if I'm off the wall. Abbott hires a child. Abbott hires a child actor, puts him in a cage, and the next thing you know, the media all flies down to Texas to cover it.
That's absolutely gonna happen. You're right. But you know, I wanna start with something that, Dana, happened, and that's the issue of fentanyl, killing 300 people a day. You know, Dana, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You know why? Why? Because President Biden decided to double the penalties for fentanyl possession. The only problem is the rest of the Democrats, if they do arrest them, they're letting them out on bail, without bail immediately. But look, what's going on in Washington right now is that these people will do and say anything to stay in power. It's all theater. It's all theater. They're decimating the border. And I'll tell you how to get attention on this thing. One of the things that nobody talks about is how much it's costing us in the middle of a recession, maybe, or certainly it's 40-year high inflation, to maintain the 2 million people that are coming through the border. And the estimates now is that it's $20 billion a year, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer, that are coming out of your pockets for people, as we say, we'd love to have, other than the fact that they're cutting in line. But you have to fix something that's broken. And for Karine Jean-Pierre to say, you know, Trump built an ineffective wall and we're doing a lot more to secure the border, that is an out-and-out lie. We have never had the number of people that are coming through the border as they're coming through right now. And the last thing I'm going to say is this. Every time we get into a situation where we allow people to come in legally, we find out who they are. These people, we don't know who they are. They don't have to be masked. They don't have to be tested. And we don't know who among them is a criminal. They're not all, certainly. Who's a pedophile? Who's a thief? Who's a this? Anytime you have 2 million people, there are criminals in there. And nobody is protecting us. And the sanctuary cities are saying, you can all come, but I'm going to send you, Lori Lightfoot's going to send them to a Republican area and redistrict, which is now the latest.
Are we wrong, Jessica, about any of this?
Oh, yes.
Oh, please.
Definitely.
Continue.
Thank you. A couple of things. Greg, you said that I think only our viewers are watching this, and I don't think that's true. If you look at what elected officials of the Democratic Party are doing in states like Arizona and Texas, they're hearing it from people at home there. People like Ruben Gallo. Mark Kelly did a whole spot of him building a section of the wall in Yuma. This is something that is penetrating, and as inflation in the economy becomes less of a priority issue. It's still the #1 issue, but there are other issues that are creeping up in importance for the midterms. That includes crime and safety, which we'll talk about later, national security, abortion, et cetera. And this is certainly part of that. But I think it's just a general mispresentation of the issue of securing our border when this has been an issue under Republicans and Democrats. We had the Gang of Eight, right? That was split there, Republicans and Democrats. They couldn't get anything done because the truth of the matter is that people in both states run by both parties like undocumented labor. And that will continue whether they're picking grapes in Oregon or oranges in Florida. And until that stops, and it's not going to stop because these are hardworking people who do us a great service. They often take jobs that Americans don't want to take. And we're not going to solve this crisis that way. I also want to say something about the language of all of this. I don't think using the term build the wall has the same scare factor as it used to. I think that Democrats have moved past that. If you hate Trump, you've hated him for 5 years now, and that's going to continue. So I do think we need to move towards a better language of the way that we talk about these issues because it's not animating people. in the same way.
Okay. So you do agree with us. Thank you, Jessica.
I'm glad that that's what you took away from that.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.